Gary, how those Knicks doing?
Up 17 after three.
Oh yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
what you thinking? You think you're gonna pull this out?
Pull it out. I think so. Hey, they were favored by 12, so they was up to 22, and then Portland scored the last 5 points. But we should be all right.
Gary,
The fourth quarter,
I'm just
up
saying.
17. There's no reason why they should lose this game. 85-68.
I'm just saying, Gary. You're one of the faithful Knick fans who support the team through thick or thin,
Yeah.
and there's been a lot of thin, and luckily it has gotten thicker the last 2 years. So, what you thinking?
It's good. Well, you know what? It's the players too. You got to look at it. Brunson is a godsend, and I like that boy ever since he was at Villanova because you could see he was a baller.
Yeah,
he's a baller.
yeah.
And these other two guys, Hart and DiVincenzo, these guys are players, man. And Randall's my man. When Randall gets back, they're only going to be better. See,
Mr. Fourth Quarter.
Yep, Mr. Fourth Quarter. But Randall was having a good season. Hey, listen, he's an all-star again. Him and Brunson were all-stars this year.
Yeah. You know what it is, Gary? I've had my heart broken a lot. So if I sound like I don't have, yeah.
Listen, I'll be disappointed if they get to the playoffs. I'll be disappointed if they don't get to the conference finals.
Got you.
They got to the second round last year, and they lost to Miami. I was a little disappointed with that. But this team this year should go into the second round, and we should beat whoever it is. And hopefully we don't have to see Boston in the second. Hopefully we don't see Boston until the conference finals.
Yeah. But
I have my druthers about Boston. Yeah. Like, Boston will probably win the East, but Boston is not going to win a title.
Okay.
They're not.
I hear you. I just, one thing I got to say, Gary, I really appreciate you coming on to Ronnie Boom's podcast, the first one. And quite honestly, you've been a friend and mentor for many years, and you took care of me in some very dark times. And I really appreciate you. But, what's funny is I never asked you about, a lot of times, how your family's doing and kind of, how were, where were you born? What's the background on Gary Martin?
What's the background? Well, thank you for having me, Ron, on your initial podcast here. I'm honored to be here with you. Simple. I was born in the Bronx, born and raised in South Bronx, Cypress Avenue on 37th Street, in the projects. Yeah. In the early '60s. That's it. Grew up playing football, basketball, baseball, going to school. I actually started going to school in the Bronx where I lived. And then when I got to the second grade, my mother bused me out to Queens. And I wound up in Queens for elementary school and junior high school. And then when I went to high school, I came back and I went to DeWitt Clinton High School. Oh. Very, very famous high school.
School of Hard Knocks.
Yeah, DeWitt Clinton High School. Yep. That's where I went. And it was all boys at that time. It was all boys.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But now you're a grandfather, and you were able to coach one of my favorites that I've heard about, Mr. Mello. You want to tell me a little about Mello? How's he doing?
My grandson Kabay is doing very well. He's 13 years old, and he just played his first year in the Fort Lee basketball tournament. And the team did pretty well. They got to the second round of the playoffs. They did very well, but he's improving.
Yeah.
But he's more of a baseball player. I'll tell you, he's a phenomenal baseball player.
Well, that's a must. If he's the grandson of Gary Martin, one of the NYPD's finest, it's a must that he's going to excel at something.
He excels in baseball, and he's learning the game of basketball. He's finding it very interesting, and I try to guide him the best way I can. Let him know This is what you have to do. You got to work hard. That's what I preach to him. I preach to him about you got to work hard, bro. You got to work hard and stay in school. Do what you got to do. He's a phenomenal student. He's an honor roll student.
Oh, wow.
Which I'm more proud of than
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
Because he is.
Anything else.
And he's setting the tone for the other 4 grandchildren, his 2 sisters and his 2 cousins that are female also. And he's the only boy, and he's the oldest, so he's setting the tempo. He's setting the bar really high. So, and that's all. That's all. Good. But you know what it is? He's a black man growing up in America, so I got to prepare him. Got to prepare him for this, man.
Correct. Gary, I just we don't want to get away from the fact that you've served 28 years with the NYPD, and I just want to kind of figure out from you, what was the climate like when you first got into the academy and then came out?
Well, I found the academy was tough on me only because I was older. Okay. I was 28 years old, and I already had 2 kids. Mm-hmm. So it was like tough when you're in there and a bunch of 20-year-olds and that still live at home and whatever the case may be. It was tough, but I got through it. It was okay. It wasn't tough physically. It was just the nonsense that you have to go through. When one person does something wrong, everybody's got to stay after and all that stuff, and it just got to be a little bit tedious after a while, but it wasn't bad. I mean, it wasn't bad. The climate was pretty good. You got to meet some good people, and
Did you enjoy?
When I came on in 1992, and that was in the 90s. The 90s was tough, tough times and whatnot.
Just like them Knicks in the 90s, huh? That era. Just tough.
The Knicks were pretty good in the 90s, but it was a tough climate out here.
Yeah.
When I came out, I had the Washington Heights riots. I don't know if you remember that, but that was in 90. It was in 92, and it started around, I want to say around April or May. It started, but it was lasted all the way through because I came out in July, and my first 2 weeks, I never went to the precinct that I was assigned to. We went straight to Washington Heights. Wow. And we were up there as they were quelling the riots that was going on. It was calming down, but they had us all on standby. But none of us had ever done anything. We didn't know anything. We had brand new equipment and all that stuff. But it was tough, but it was there, and, you had to sit around for hours and hours and hours, but, whatever.
That's what it was. Well, but so, Gary, do we know exactly what started the riots in Washington Heights back in those times?
The Washington Heights riots was started from a situation where somewhere, I don't remember the street, but I know it was somewhere it's like, Audubon Avenue, whatever. But it was an undercover cop that chased a kid named Kiko into a building because he was wanted on drugs. He had him for a drug sale or a drug deal or whatever. He chased him into a building, and he wound up shooting and killing the kid in the lobby of the building. And it started because they swore that this kid had gave up, and the cop just shot him just like that. His hands was up and whatever. Now, nobody really knows. That cop was never brought up on charges or anything like that. But and I think that's what it was. The DA didn't prosecute this cop, and then the people just took to the streets.
Right.
Took to the streets.
Yeah.
Sort of like what happened with George Floyd. Right. To equate it with George Floyd, only thing, it was all over the country. This happened in Washington Heights area, around where the 3-4 precinct is and all that. So that's what started that. And it was basically a riot that lasted for weeks. Right. It was really tight things. They had things where, they had blocks blocked off where people had to show ID to get into their buildings and whatnot. Because if you didn't live there, you wasn't coming in you wasn't coming on the blocks
at all.
So
At all. Wow.
but that's what started that riot.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's a hell of a way to get out of the academy and start.
Yeah, it was.
You
I'm
know.
telling you, we didn't. All of us, we didn't do anything. You didn't know anybody. You knew some of the guys that you were going to the precinct with because you just happened to meet them, but we never went. I think we went to the precinct one day, and then we went right from the precinct to somewhere on Washington Heights, and we was just sitting on big city buses. They had all the rookie cops sitting on buses, and we were just on standby. Meanwhile, the other guys were out there, out there fighting crime or
Right.
fighting whatever they had to do.
Yeah.
But we were on buses and and that's where we stayed. And you know what we learned how to do? We learned how to fill out overtime slips.
Yeah. Yes.
That's what we did. And that was a week and a half we were there. And then from there, I went down. I was assigned to the Democratic National Convention, which was at Madison Square Garden.
Okay.
So now this is going on, and that went on for 2 weeks. So this is 3 weeks, and I had never went to the 4-4.
Wow.
I never went to the 4-4 at all.
Yeah. Wow.
It was just there. Equipment in the car, everything. Everything was in the car, basically. And you went to work with half your uniform on.
Now you went to the 4-4. Yeah. You went to the old 4-4, or was this
the old 4-4? Yeah, it was still old. We didn't move into the new building until 93, the year, like not January or February of 93.
Okay.
So I spent 6 months there. I was there from July to when we moved.
So the old 4-4, what would you say? Was there anything unique about the old 4-4 as far as just the setup and where the location?
The location was okay. Do you remember where Cedric Avenue?
Correct.
That's where it was up on. It was on Cedric Avenue. And matter of fact, it was called the Cedric Avenue Station House before it was called the 4-4.
Really?
But yeah. Anyway, it was right next to a hotel that became a welfare hotel after a while. But it was one of those short stay hotels right there, right next to it. And on the other side of it was a gas station. And the place was a mess. It was a mess. It was a mess. Dude. It was a mess. When I tell you it was a mess, the rats used to run around that place, man, like you would not believe, bro.
You're not just talking about IAB. You're talking about actual rats.
No, I'm talking about four-legged rats, not the two-legged ones. not the two-legged ones. Yeah, no, I'm talking about the four-legged ones that place was a mess. Let me tell you something, man. It was a mess.
Yeah,
it was a mess. We needed to get out of there and whatnot, but it was a mess. But you know what? It was nostalgic though, because at least I could say like all the years I passed that precinct. Just being in the Bronx, coming from the Bronx, in the car with my father and whatever, my brother or whatever, passing by there, going up to Deegan, you always thought about that place, but never thought about that I would ever wind up working there.
Right.
Because you just had no idea where you were going to work. But it was nostalgic. It was, and you know what? It was out of the way. We didn't get a lot of walk-ins, which is one of the reasons why they moved it right into the middle of the community. Because this way, the community had access to us. Because over there, nobody walked in. The only people walked in is maybe if somebody had an accident,
right,
or something like that. They would walk in. But other than that, there wasn't no walk-ins.
Yeah,
nobody walking in. So it was kind of like nice place to be. It was a nice place to be.
And apart from that, you guys had the amenities of Depot Beach at that point, right?
Depot Beach. Well, we still used to go to Depot Beach even after we moved and whatnot. Depot Beach was a place where just a lot of. Now, as a rookie, I stayed away from Depot Beach.
I'm glad you did.
Yeah, because that's where you get in trouble at.
Yeah.
But all those other guys, the guys that were there, and you know what? It took time before you wanted to hang out with those guys. Anyway, those
Yeah.
guys didn't trust you. They didn't know you, and I didn't know them. So I wasn't like that. I was like, I would get in my car and go right up to Deegan and go home and whatnot. I wasn't even thinking about that place, Depot Beach.
Yeah, that's when you had to really earn your stripes, for them to
Yeah,
really
yeah,
trust
yeah.
you. But so apart from that, like, talk to me a little bit about just your career as far as the different avenues that you were able to get into in the police department.
My career. Well, I did a lot of patrol. I did a lot of details within the precinct. Like I worked in one precinct really my entire career. I never worked anywhere else. Um, I did anti-crime. I did something called CPOP, which was a walking unit, where you get to know the neighborhood and stuff like that. Community policing, that's what they called it.
Right.
That was a big deal in the times when I was coming on and whatnot. That was a big deal. It didn't work, just like a lot of things didn't work. But it was. I did it. I did anti-crime. I did a little bit of SNU. I did burglary apprehension, which was a very good unit. That was a good unit. That was good. Yeah. But overall, I did a lot of police work, a lot of jobs, a lot of patrol work. It was I don't want to say it was fun, but it was. I'll put it to you like this: it was hours of boredom and seconds of terror.
Yeah.
You ever heard that before?
Yeah. Yes.
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 That's exactly what it was. Yeah. Especially in the 90s, man.
Wow.
Because routinely, no matter what tour you worked, whether you worked day, and I did a lot of 4 to 12s in those days, and then I did midnights, obviously. But routinely, man, you were doing 14, 15 jobs a day, a night, whatever.
Yeah.
It was
all legit, right?
Yeah, all legit, basically legit jobs. Yeah, yeah. I mean, you get the occasional, nonsense and whatnot, but you were running. You were running. You were answering jobs, and it wasn't like you was the only one out there. You had 10 other cars out there with you, but everybody did their share. As long as everybody did their share, the workload was fine. Right. But it was busy. It was busy. It was busy nonstop. And but it was good because it was a learning experience, man. You got to learn this job. When you come on this job, you got to learn. Yeah. And the only way to learn is to be out there. Yeah. Learn how not to get your behind kicked. You know what I'm saying?
Or better yet, learn how to talk to people.
And learn how to talk. Exactly. Well, that's part of how you talk yourself out of a fight. Because you can't shoot everybody. You can't hit everybody with a stick. You know what I'm saying? So you got to learn how to talk. But that's where it comes when you're from the streets or you're from the areas that you like. The 4-4 was not different from where I grew up.
Right.
And I grew up in the 4-0. And where I grew up at was the 4-0 precinct. Yeah. So it wasn't that much different. So you kind of know the people. You know the people, and you deal with them, and you know the ones that are doing whatever they're doing, and but you got to learn how to talk to people. Everybody's not a criminal, right? And one of those people, one sergeant told me one time that one of those people out there, if you do your job right, those people out there could save your life because they're the ones that's going to call for you. Right. If you can't get to your radio and if you can't, do whatever, they're the ones, they'll call for you. Right. If you're a good person to them and you treat them with respect. Now, that's all they want is respect. Because listen, everybody's going to do their dirt, whatever they do. Yeah. You don't catch them today, you'll catch them tomorrow, whatever. Yeah. Doesn't matter. You got to check your ego at the door. Yeah. That's basically what it is.
Yeah. And you find that the ego complex, do you find that it's easily done to check your ego at the door? Because we can say it, but do you find that when you put that badge on?
It's not easy, and it's not easy for everybody. And it's not. But like I said, I think it's something to say when you are from the city. Mm-hmm. I always felt that. Obviously you have a lot of people that come from upstate and come from wherever, come from Jersey, come from wherever, and they become New York City cops. But I feel like if you grew up in the city, regardless of where you grew up at, I think you could have a better feel of what's going on.
Right. Right. No, no, no. I'm totally with you. Totally with you, Gary. Exposure is a hell of a thing, right? And
Yeah.
understanding culture or being open to understanding culture is a hell of a thing too.
Yep.
So
Exactly. And that exactly right. Listen, I met some very good people, man. I've met very good people that lived in the 4-4. People that would offer us food and stuff like that and drink and whatever. You'd see them out there, barbecuing or whatever. Hey, Gary, hey, Officer Martin,
yeah,
yo, come on, join. And yo,
yeah,
it was just like anything else. And you know what? They appreciated that because I
yeah.
wasn't there to police. We wasn't there to police them. We were there to supposed to be protecting them, right?
Correct.
But there were people that you got to know, or at least I did,
Right.
and partners I work with. I'm fortunate to work with I had some very good partners, very good, male and female. I
Yeah.
had more female than male, but I had some very good partners that were all very good, and we all worked good together.
Yeah.
And we had our fun and we did our job, and but you don't have to treat everybody like crap. You know what I mean?
Right.
You don't get respect like that.
Right.
But anyway, that's basically what I did. Even during my career, I enjoyed my career. It
Yeah.
went fast. I
Yeah.
can tell you that.
Right.
To me,
Right.
it went fast.
But Gary, just to peel back some layers a little bit, a question that I never asked you: why the NYPD? Why the NYPD?
Why NYPD?
Why not another law enforcement agency?
Well, Ron, that's a very good question, and I'll tell you. Growing up and when I was going to school in the Bronx, by the time I was going to high school, I used to take the number 4 train. You know, from my house, you get on the number 6, you go to 125th Street, you get on the 4 train. And it was a certain 4 trains you caught, but the cops would be on the trains. These were, as it was then, it was the transit cops. At the time, I really didn't know the difference,
Right.
whatever. But
because back then, right, Gary, the department was split, right? It
was 3 different departments. Yes,
okay.
Even when I came on, the merge happened in '95. Believe it or not, that's when the merge happened. But up until then, it was 3 different departments, and you had a choice. You could have went into housing, transit, or NYPD. You had a choice at the door, which you wanted to do. Mm-hmm. But the reason I chose NYPD is because growing up, I was just fascinated by cops. Because I wasn't one, and I know that, listen, cops had a very bad reputation, but it was just something about the uniform and the radio and all that stuff going on. I had an uncle that was one of the first Black mounted cops.
Okay.
And he was a cop. He had been retired by the time I got him. But and this guy loved me. He loved me because I became a cop and whatnot. But he was a good man. He was a good man, my uncle. Yeah. And but I was just always fascinated by that. I didn't want to work anywhere else. Yeah, I really didn't. I always wanted NYPD, which is why if I had to do all over again, I probably would have chose transit. Transit is the best kept secret. And transit has a lot of us, people that look like us, right. In there. But I don't regret it. Like I said, I was just always fascinated by the uniform and the radio, and it was just something that just fascinated me. I don't know.
So what made you not follow up on trying to get over the mounted?
Get over the mountain.
Mounted. The mounted.
The mount. Oh no, listen, I didn't have no desire.
Thrown off a horse?
Yeah, no, I didn't have no desires to ride no damn horse. No. Like I say, it was something that I, as a kid. Now I can remember being with him or going to where he was, and he would be out in Coney Island. And Coney Island had, when I was a kid growing up, my mother used to take me and my brother. We used to go to Coney Island in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And my uncle would be out there with his mounted unit, and we would always run into him. And see, this is my mother's brother, so he was right, but he would be on that horse, and I got on that horse a few times because he was there. But I never had no desires to ride no horse. No,
No, you tell him that.
that wouldn't have been me. That wouldn't have been me. Yeah, not at all. Not at all.
Now, Gary, when I first met you, at that point, you were a precinct rep. At that point,
Yeah.
Talk to me about what that was like, being a rep, especially for the 44th precinct.
Well, you have to explain to the people what a rep is. You know, whatever. It's a union because we have a union. We have a very good union, PBA, right?
Correct.
And you have delegates. You have 3 delegates in every command, especially in the Bronx. Definitely, you had 3 in every command. That's a lot of people. So you have 12 precincts, 36 delegates. But anyway, I was one of 3, and I was appointed to the job in 2006. I took over for a guy that did he retire? I believe he retired. Yeah, he retired, and one of the trustees at the time called me up one day and says, "Listen, how would you like to be a delegate?" I said, "How would I like to be a delegate? First of all, how did you get my phone number?"
Right.
Because we had cell phones and everything. Anyway, so somebody gave him the phone number or whatever.
Yeah.
And he said, "How would you like to be a delegate?" And I was like, "Have you thought about it?" I was like, "No, not really.
Yeah.
Not really." Now I'm thinking it's going to be a lot. And do I really want to, occupy my time with this stuff?
Right.
Well, he kind of told me that I'm not asking you, I'm telling you that you need to be a delegate.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, and then I did. So around 2006, I became a delegate. Okay. And it turned into a very, very good job. I tell you, it was good, where I just enjoyed helping cops.
Right.
Taking care of cops and making sure that everybody, and I'm not going to say especially, I could say especially the ones that look like me, because I know what it is to be on this job. But I helped everybody, bro. I really didn't care about that, but I would, you go a little extra mile sometimes when, a brother's having a problem or a female's having a problem, and it might not have nothing to do with the job. It might be something that's going on at home.
Correct.
But they need time off. They need it. So I found myself doing a lot more than I needed to do, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it. Knicks won 105-93, bro.
Oh, good. Just to add to that a little bit, one of the delegates that I knew of was a good guy in my eyes, Joe Anthony.
Well, Joe Anthony was the trustee that I just mentioned to you.
Oh, it was. Look at that.
He was the trustee that called me up and told me that I'm not asking you, I'm telling you. Joe was kind of like a bully. Good guy.
Yes.
Good guy. But he was kind of like a bully. He told me, "I'm not asking you, guy. I need you to be one of my delegates."
Yeah, he was brash.
He was a trustee. He was a trustee at the time. He was one of 3 Bronx trustees at that time.
Yeah, but I will tell you, my experience with Joe is that he has one of the kindest hearts, and he's a guy that you'd want in your corner. And that's kind of my experience with Joe. It's very brief, but my experience with Joe.
Joe was good. Joe would take care of anybody. Joe would fight for anybody. He did. He did do that. He did do that.
Now you were a rep in the union rep in the precinct, and then after that, what was the transition from there? What was the move from there?
Well, it went like that until 2015, and I was actually Joe Anthony, as you mentioned, actually was running. He had put together a ticket of himself. They were going to run against Pat Lynch, and they actually put together this ticket. So I wound up running with Joe in this ticket as a Bronx trustee.
Right.
And Joe and them didn't win, but I won.
Right.
Me and my two colleagues won that part of the election because it's in one election, but it's kind of separate. Like you could vote for, you don't have to vote for. You voting for the top ticket. You want the president, vice president, and all of that stuff.
Right.
But then you vote on the borough trustees separately. Okay. So when it came, and that was a surprise to me that I actually won. And yeah, the three of us actually won 2015. And I went. Now I became a borough trustee, which
But Gary, why were you surprised? Because I mean, you have always done right by everyone.
I was just surprised at the way, because you know what? When you get into that type of atmosphere, there's a lot of politics involved with that, man. And the campaigning was nasty. I mean, you could not believe some of the stuff that was said about me, that was said about Betty, who was actually a female. And then the other guy, Freddie, they didn't really say much about him because he was what they wanted, basically. Gotcha. You know what I mean by that, right?
I understand.
But me and Betty represented what they didn't want. They don't want a female, and she was Hispanic and Black, and I'm Black. So forget it. There's nothing you could say that I'm a Black man. They didn't want that. So I'm talking about the other ones that were running against us. I'm talking about the other. They would go to roll calls and say all kinds of stuff. Anyway, and we campaigned too. I went on campaign, but I never talked about anybody.
Right.
All I did was give the roll calls my reasons that I would make a good trustee, and I would just cite my record as a delegate. And you could find out about me. Just call anybody you want to call in the 4-4, and there you go. Because everybody's got friends everywhere, right?
Right.
So when it turns out that I actually won my position, and they won theirs, and that was that.
I will tell you that I remember that time period, and it felt like there was a need for change around that time period, and that was the sense I felt around the rank and file, that there was a need for change, and you were going to be a fresher breath air in that time period, and so you got what you deserved, Gary.
I thought so. I didn't have much confidence in it. Like I said, I would have listen, I was going to continue on. I wasn't going to retire or anything like that. If I didn't win, I was just going to go back to doing what I was doing. And when I was ready to leave, I would leave and whatnot, but I would still be a delegate and whatever. It didn't matter to me. It wasn't that it didn't matter, but once I got it, it became another calling.
Yeah.
And I was able to take care of people now all over, and even retirees and stuff like that. Because when you retire from this job, nobody wants to hear what you got to say.
Right.
Sometimes you need help and whatnot, and you need that. And I did that. And you have guys and girls, they get sick or whatever on the job, and you got to be there for them. And I'm not saying just you.
Right.
Because you were one of them, but you belong to me, and I felt it was you. Somebody was going to fight for you.
Yeah.
It wasn't that we had to fight for you to get you anything, because you were going to get what you were supposed to get. But you know what? To let you know that we're there. We're there for you. Yeah. What do you need? Your family. What do you need? What do you need? And that's what I wanted to make you feel, and that's the way I wanted to make everybody feel.
Yeah. With that, I want to tell you that, and I don't mean to cut you, but I definitely really want to thank you, Christopher Sullivan. I think even his name, Captain Deputy Inspector Catalina at the time. Or he might have been Inspector Catalina at that time.
Kevin was a good guy.
Yeah,
Kevin was a good guy. Yes. Listen, you don't have to thank me, brother, because we did what we were supposed to do. Correct. And we're supposed to take care of each other.
Absolutely.
Because you did the same for me.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Whether you was a delegate or not, you would have still did the same for me. And Chris, one of my best friends, Chris was great. Chris was great for me because that was my right-hand man. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, he was my right-hand man.
Even
Chris was a good man.
Even the midnight guys that I worked with in the 4-4, Ivy Bailey,
Yes.
everybody who came through. Even honestly, even the people are SBAs, right?
Yes.
People, they, I never forget, them coming to see me in the hospital and stuff like that. And,
that's right.
There's just special types of people, and I much love, to all of them. They really, it really, it's funny, Gary. I used to go up there after midnight in the morning, and a lot of times just come and say hello, and they're just coming in for the morning shift and stuff like that. But I think Carmen was somebody that was up there. I'm a little fuzzy on some of the names right now, but they were just Jacqueline was up there at that time, and I can never forget the president of the 4-4, Deidre. Deidre,
who could forget Deidre?
Listen, Deidre is classic. She's one of a kind. She's the best. And when
Deidre and I got there the same year.
Really? Wow.
Me and Deidre came to the 4-4 the same year, 92. She's a PAA, but we got there the same time, man. And she's still there.
You know the crazy thing about Deidre? She doesn't age.
No, she doesn't age.
I don't know what she's doing, but she doesn't age. She told me her secret one time, but I ain't gonna mention it. But Deidre is the best. And I feel like she's almost basically the reference book for the 44th precinct. So anytime you need somebody, you're looking for somebody you can't remember, she remembers.
She remembers, exactly.
She's got a memory, a storage memory that is crazy. She doesn't forget anything.
She's still there. Hey, listen, she is, me and her had our ups and downs over the years, but you know what I always respected about her? She cared. And she would look out for anybody. Anybody. Anybody that was there. If she didn't like you, though, she didn't like you.
And she let you, and you knew it.
Yep, you knew it. She did a lot. She had a lot to do with my walkout. I tell you, her, Maria, all of them. I mean, she was just something else, man.
Yeah.
She's a good person. She means well.
Yeah,
she has a son.
Yeah, I think I thought he might have been a cop in North Carolina or something like that. Or
he might have been, but he played college ball. Mm. And during, the early years, I mean, in the early 2000s, I think, because he was, I don't know if he's probably about the same age as my kids. I mean, my kids, 36 and 30, 35 and 33.
Yeah.
Right. So I think, he's around that age, but he played some college basketball. He was pretty good from what I heard. I never saw him play, never saw anything close, but he was a big kid. You see how big she is, right?
Well,
he was
how tall Deidre is, and then she probably got his handle from Deidre, Deidre's probably at Rucker Park, and we didn't know about it.
He was a big kid. He was probably about 6'5", 280.
Yeah.
He was a big dude. I saw him a couple of times, but he was a big kid, and he played some college ball. I don't know how good he was, and I don't know what he did. I don't know what he's doing now. I know he's a grown man, so
All I gotta say is one thing I remember about Deidre, and Puma owes Deidre some sponsorship dollars because
she did.
I never saw Deidre wear anything but Pumas. All right.
Yeah, and she did. She wore the Pumas. We wore Pumas in the 70s, bro.
I didn't know that.
That was when I was growing up. Mm-hmm. That was sneaker, Clyde. That was Clyde sneaker. But then they came in all colors, and they came in leather, suede. But they had all different flavors, and I had a few different flavors of them because I basically grew up as an only child, so I got what I wanted. And then what I didn't get with that, I got from playing ball. I got free sneakers to play ball. So, But I had the fresh Pumas and whatnot, man. Pumas was joint.
something Deidre don't know. I actually, because Deidre wore so many Pumas, I actually
Uh-huh.
went out and got me a pair of Pumas because of Deidre, and I used to
Did you
some
really?
black Pumas. Hold on, and because we ended up in a lot of foot chases after a while, especially on the midnight. I decided I was gonna get me some black track Pumas, some rude. I used to call them the rude boy runners, right? Because I just knew, hey, it's gonna kick off, and we got to get going. This body's got to get going up the road. So yeah, you can't make that up. But talk to me, Gary, about like just memorable moments in the 4-4 precinct.
Oh man. Oh God, I got so many stories. Memorable stuff.
Give me a few.
I don't know. Oh man. Oh man. Oh man. Wow. Man. Well, it's just so many, man. I gotta filter through. I was trying to think about this during the course of the day. Good stories, because there's always, you want to have good stories, some that are funny or some that are, whatever. You don't want to, you see a lot. Obviously, I saw a lot of
Yeah,
things that,
yeah.
that are hard to see and whatnot. But, um, geez, Christ. Well, I'll tell you a story. I'll tell you a story about one situation when I was a rookie.
All right.
And it's a pretty funny story when you think about it, because you'll understand what I'm saying.
Right.
I was the rookie, maybe a year on at the time, year and a half or whatever, and I was in a sector call with my partner, my first partner, and he was no longer on the job after a while. But he had some problems that happened, but he was my first partner. And as a matter of fact, I just spoke to him the other day. He actually called me because he was at a wedding with Ben Gurley, who was the chief of the Bronx.
Yes.
And he was happening, because I couldn't understand how they knew each other. Because Ben calls me, and he's like, "Hey, how you doing?" He said, "Somebody wants to talk to you." So it turns out to be this guy, who was my first partner. So anyway, we have a job. This is a dispute, some kind of dispute on Anderson Avenue. And so we get there, and like I said, we were rookies, so we was just like one of our first days out by ourselves, So we get there and we met at the front of the building by a little cute female, whatever, black female. And so she says, and she's kind of upset. She said, "Yeah, my husband, we had a fight, and he just put me out, and whatever the case may be, and he was just so mad with me. He didn't hit me or anything, but he put me out. I shouldn't be put out or whatever." So we tough guys. A pretty girl. You know how it is. You see a pretty girl, and you're like, "Oh yeah, we tough guy. Yeah, well, let's go up here and see about this, because he can't be putting you out, whatever."
Yeah.
Now, this building we went into was a 6-story walk up. And if memory is not saying, we go up to the 4th floor. So we're walking up to the 4th floor, we get to the apartment, and we knock on the door. And she's right there. He's right there. We right there. We're doing all the tactical things or whatever.
Right.
This guy, and you can hear noise in the apartment, but you don't quite know what it is. This guy comes to the door and opens up the door. And when I tell you, Ron, this guy was about 6'4", and he was a rack. He looked like Arnold Schwarzenegger, bro. And he was a brother, and you could see inside the apartment where he was lifting weights. That's the noise that we heard. He was lifting weights. And he says to us with a deep voice, tells her, "You went and called a man on me." We looked, and this guy was too big. He said, "You went and called a man on me." When a guy says that, I mean, he's old school.
Yeah.
But he was huge. Ron, when I tell you that we were so nice after that. Matter of fact, we got mad at her. You called me up here for this guy.
And I ain't the man.
Yeah, I ain't the man. He's the man. And she got some stuff, and she went on about her merry way. But we were laughing about that because we were so nice. Because the one thing you didn't want to do is when you talk about talking to people.
Yeah.
Could you imagine we was up there on the 4th floor, and we got into a scuffle? This guy would have threw us all both around the fucking apartment, bro.
Yeah.
He would have threw us around the apartment and whatever. We'd been fighting, and we might have won after a while, but we would have been, and it would have took a little while for help to get there. A few
cars later, yeah.
Yeah, you know. So we laughed about that, and we laughed about that just this day when he called me. We were talking about that, and I said, "Yeah, we was all big and bold till we got till you opened that door, and we saw how big he was." He was like, "Okay, all right, lady, you don't need to be calling us for this."
What you get me wrapped up involved in this?
You balling this poor man in here trying to lift weights and be cool and whatnot. And when he said that, you went and called a man on me. I was like, okay, we ain't doing this. We ain't gonna do this with this guy. Let's get her stuff and let her go and whatnot. And those were the days where you could do that because you could, wasn't no DIRs or anything like that. You'd have to do it. But it was one of the more funniest stories that I had dealing with because we laugh. It just lets you know, dude, you know what? You got to be a punk sometimes because you know what? It's not good. It's not good. It's not good. It's not good, man. It's not good. Because what are you going to do with a guy like that, man? That guy's going to toss you around there. Yeah, you're going to win after a while, but it's going to take a... But I might wind up in the hospital too, right next to him and whatnot. Because
you trying to go down to Lincoln. You trying to get down to Lincoln.
You can't shoot him. You can't shoot a guy. The guy's just physically beating your butt and whatnot. You know. But it wasn't going down like that for us because me and my boys said, okay, we're going to just get rid of this, let this man go back to what he's doing and let him stay calm. And like I said, we didn't know what we were doing or not, but we knew we wasn't going to do.
We
wasn't fighting with tuckling with this guy. Like I said, he didn't beat her up or anything. So if he had beat her up, she wouldn't have been able to call us, put it like that. That's how big he was. Wow. If he really wanted to beat her up, she'd have been going to the hospital before we even got there and whatnot. So
Gary, when you got to the 4th floor, who was the commanding officer at that point?
A guy by the name of Henry Krantz.
Oh, okay.
He was the CO. No, you wouldn't know him. He was long gone.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
He was the CO, and you know who the XO was? Tommy Patel.
Aces.
Who you do know.
Aces.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's when I first met Tommy Patel. Yep. He was the captain then. Yep.
My first meeting with Tommy Patel, we were fresh out the academy, and we were at Yankee Stadium doing a detail on River Avenue.
He was the chief of the Bronx then, right?
Correct. And all the commanders at that point, I think we were either with Sergeant Holmes at the time and possibly Lieutenant Dugan at the time, not sure, but I know Sergeant Holmes probably was there, and he had us line up on each side of River Avenue, right? And I want to tell you something. It was the greatest thing. Tommy Patel came out from somewhere, and it was like Elvis walking down the street, shaking everybody's hand, giving everybody. He loved his Bronx cops,
He sure did. He sure did. He sure did. Yes, he did.
We love
and
Tommy
let me
Patel.
tell you something about Tommy Patel. Tommy Patel would not go to a scene. He would not go. He would go through the door before you.
Yes. Yep.
That's the kind of guy he was.
Yeah.
I saw this guy once. He dented some man's car. We were running in on a search warrant.
Yeah.
And he jumped over this car that was parked, minding its own business, and he jumped on that car to get over so he could get to the door before the cops got to the door.
Mm-hmm.
and he was a deputy inspector at that time.
At that time, look at that.
He
Yeah.
would never he would never tell you to do something that he wouldn't do.
Yeah.
And he would do it before you.
Gary, you know who was kind of like that too, and I don't mean to cut you. You know who was kind of like that too? Essick.
He was okay.
You know,
I didn't particularly like him too much. Only it wasn't nothing he did. He never did anything to me. He was actually pretty good with me because I had to negotiate with him to get somebody off of a bridge post because he just had this kid out on a bridge post for weeks and weeks, and I was like, "Yo, dude, you can't have him out there." But whatever.
Yeah.
He just delegated too much for me. When he was there, the lieutenants ran that precinct.
Correct.
His guys.
Yep.
His guys. One of them was he's a chief now. Spanish guy. Jesus, why I can't remember his name. I just saw him on TV last night talking about
Rodriguez.
No, not him. Not him. Oh, Jesus Christ, because his brother worked in the 442 at one time. Oh man. Wow.
Right.
Whatever.
I'll
think.
Yeah.
But anyway, but that was my thing with Essick. He delegated to his lieutenants, ran that precinct at the time he was there. He was all right, though. He was okay. He was all right.
Yeah, I think as far as around that time period, we had Ozzie Nunez, right? Which I got recruited at one point to be an Ozbot at one point. That was different. That was another. that was an adventure in its own. Good times, working with
Ozzie was somebody that had to grow on me because me and Ozzie just bumped heads a lot when he was a sergeant.
Yeah.
And I grew to like Ozzie when he as he moved up the ranks because he was. Matter of fact, Ozzie was the CO of the 47 for a minute. I don't know if he still is.
No, he's not. He's gone. Mm-mm.
Yeah, he's gone from there. But he was there. But Ozzie was all right. He turned out to be okay. Ozzie was good. We kind of understood each other.
Yeah.
Kind of understood each other.
Yeah. So talk to me real quick, Gary, because we've been on this for a little while now, and we almost went over like our slated time. But
sorry, that's because I talk too much.
No, you just have a lot of wisdom, right, and experience. Talk to me about favorite bosses and why.
Favorite bosses.
You already mentioned Patel.
Patel was probably my favorite of all. He really was. Because, I still talk to Patel.
Correct.
That's, I still have conversations with him now.
Mm-hmm.
He was probably my favorite. There was Kevin Clark.
Yeah.
Was one of my favorites. He was good because he looked like us,
and he knew how.
And he came to the 4-4
feet.
Yeah. He came to the 4-4, and he kind of like changed the dynamic. He started putting, some color in some of these units and stuff like that, and bosses and cops, and people that would not have had a chance if others were there and whatnot.
Yeah.
And O'Neill was pretty good. I mean, he wound up being a police commissioner.
Yeah.
And so was Dermot Shea. Sure, Dermot Shea was one of my favorites. He was good too. Yes. But O'Neill was good.
Yeah.
O'Neill was definitely good to me. He was good. He was good to us. And there's been quite a few. Kevin Catalina, who you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Kevin was a good guy. Kevin and I were in the same academy class.
Didn't know that. So
yes.
Y'all were working out in each other's sweat on that sticky floor.
Yeah. No, he was in A squad and I was in B squad. Like I really didn't know him that much, but he turned out that he became a headline when he graduated because he wound up going and getting in trouble in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
If you ever heard about that.
No.
Yeah, he got in some trouble.
I just know Kevin was a cool guy. You know what I mean? Everything was cool about Kevin. He
was definitely. He had Napoleon complex, though. You know that, right? Because he was short. You know,
I never,
he's a short guy.
I never really picked
Short,
it up. You know,
short guys. Yeah, he had it, but he wasn't as bad as some.
yeah,
But he was he had the Napoleon complex, but he was a good guy though.
yeah.
Definitely a good guy. No question about it. No question
And
about
I
it.
know this is mostly a profile on you, but for me, Lieutenant Dugan, uh,
Oh,
I
Ricky Dugan was the best.
yeah,
I didn't get to work with Ricky a lot
right,
because he was the midnight guy at the time, and but he was a good guy. Definitely a good guy. Ricky
yeah,
Dugan was one
aces,
of the best.
yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah, and then
And
ours.
Essick, your boy Essick didn't like him.
I didn't know that.
You know why he didn't like him? Because he was good with the cops.
Right.
Like Phil Rivera was the lieutenant there at the time that I was talking about. He's a chief now.
Correct.
He's up there too. He's like our chief.
Right.
Yeah. So Phil Rivera, but he liked Phil Rivera because Phil Rivera wasn't that friendly. But he didn't like Ricky because Ricky would fight for the cops.
Oh yeah, Ricky was a cop's cop.
Yes.
Ricky was a
Yes.
cop's cop.
Right.
Ricky
was good.
You know what? You know who I came to appreciate a lot. And he meant well, but you just had to get past like the pride that he had, or even sometimes people might think he was just a little bit brash. Sergeant Rodriguez.
Oh yeah, Tito. Yes,
Yeah.
but yeah,
he meant well.
Right.
He did well.
He's a good dude. I've talked to him over the years and whatnot. He lives in Georgia.
Oh yeah.
And he lives in Georgia. He always had that bark. I used to give him up all the time because he used to have them rookies petrified of him.
Yeah.
And I would say, he's a softie. And he would get mad at me for saying that. He just barking, don't. But in essence, I wouldn't do that to him, if I didn't think the person was worthy. I knew the person who I was telling that to wasn't a person that was gonna, take advantage of him, because he wasn't gonna do that. But he was overall a good guy. He never was out to hurt anybody.
Right.
Never out to hurt.
No. I gotta be honest with you. I'll never forget. He'll say, "Reed, what are you and Kathy doing?" Reed, what are you and Kathy doing? But he was always great. And I Sergeant Grayson on the Midnights Patrol. Sergeant Grayson was great. Grayson was great. Kevin Grayson was great.
Yeah. Grayson was good, man.
And to round it out for me, lastly, honestly, I love Lieutenant Lyons. Lieutenant Lyons, once again, I had a different, perspective.
You dealt with him
differently. Right.
But Lyons was all right. Lyons was a guy that you didn't have to worry about too much. He would come to me with his issues with some cops, and he would tell me, Gary, could you talk to them? Could you, whatever? And I like that. So but he was all right. I never have a bad word to say about Lyons. Lyons was good.
Yeah.
He was good.
Yeah,
he was good.
He just didn't like the what they call the Savage Nomads. He was just not a fan of the Savage Nomads.
Which one? Who was that?
Those were the ones that didn't have was a bike club, but they never had any bikes.
Oh yeah.
On
Mount Eden.
Yes, sir.
On Mount Eden.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
sir.
Yes.
Not a fan at
all. Those
all.
guys were real old school, man. Those guys were real old school nomads, bro.
Yeah.
And because I remember the Savage Nomads when I was growing up as a kid.
Yeah.
They painted a wall. No, that was the Black Spades. We had the Nomads, but they were out there. Those guys were real bikers, but those guys were old school by that time and whatnot. But those guys were down. They were pretty cool. They didn't bother anybody.
Yeah.
Some people just live by the stigma of the Bronx. You can't do that. I grew up in the Bronx, and there wasn't too many places in the Bronx that I didn't know about or not. So like I said, I would never, I would always put the Bronx right up there. So yeah,
Yeah.
but Savage Bill Man, yes, I forgot about those
So yeah,
guys. Yeah,
you can't forget those guys, and not for
yeah.
them, Paulie Pendergrass and Horatio, really solid guys,
Paul
man.
Pendergrass. I talk about a guy
Yes,
that
sir.
was down. Paul Pendergrass.
Yes,
Oh
sir.
my God,
Yes, sir.
yo, that guy. That guy was a mess, man. But he was a good dude.
Yeah,
That is a good dude.
yeah.
Yes. Well, who was the other one you said?
Um, it was Horatio. Horatio.
Oh, Ortega. Oh
Ortega.
God,
Yeah.
yes. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
You know.
Horatio didn't care what was going on as long as she didn't bother him. He didn't want to know.
No,
He didn't want to know.
a gentleman though. He was a gentleman.
Yes, he
Horatio.
was. Yes, he
Yeah.
was.
You
Yes,
know,
he was.
Sergeant
Yes,
Diaz
he
and
was.
I'm trying to remember anybody else that I felt was very impactful while I was there. Um, gosh. I might have mentioned Sergeant Birmingham.
Phil Birmingham.
Phil
Yeah,
Birmingham was
yeah.
one of the
It's his
best.
birthday the other day.
One of the
Yeah,
best,
yeah.
you know. But
Mm-hmm.
but I'm gonna kind of wrap things up, Gary, because I think we
Okay.
kind of covered quite a bit comprehensively. Talk to me about one thing that people don't know about Gary Martin.
That I am very, very private.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I just don't give myself up that much.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Outside of my circle.
right. Do you feel that came because that a lot of that is due to the work you did as a police officer, or you feel like you were like that before becoming a police officer?
No, I was always been like that. I've always been like that. Kind of a moody, very moody, very moody. I can get into mood sometimes and just don't know. Not as much as when I was younger. As I've gotten older, I've gotten a little bit more mellower.
And why
But
not?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. No,